And I was about to spar. Before I was about to spar Tank, he was sparring this big boy.
A heavyweight.
Heavyweight boy. And Tank hit that nigga. He hit him so hard that he was on the top of the rope just like this.
The speed, Gervonta Tank Davis, if he put on the right weight, put the right weight on, and, you know, have the lean muscle right, he can look fantastic somewhere in the mid-150s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake Paul.
In newly surfaced footage, Gervonta Davis stunned fans after reportedly flooring a heavyweight sparring partner during training for his upcoming fight against Jake Paul. The clip captures Tank's trademark timing and explosive power as he lands a perfectly placed left hand that abruptly ends the session. Viewers are calling it clear evidence that Davis's speed, accuracy, and punching power remain elite, even when facing opponents far larger than himself. Showbiz the Adult has confidently predicted that Gervonta Davis will enter the ring around 154 pounds for his highly anticipated fight against Jake Paul, dismissing concerns that Tank will be undersized. He explained that Davis has previously walked around at that weight and even trained at 160 pounds, making this jump far less drastic than critics believe. According to Showbiz, Tank's years of sparring with naturally bigger fighters have sharpened his timing, defense, and counterpunching ability, skills that often neutralize any size disadvantage. He believes Davis's explosive power and elite ring IQ will prove too much for Jake Paul, confidently stating that once Tank lands clean, Jake won't last long. In his words, "This fight isn't about size, it's about skill, precision, and a level of experience that Jake Paul simply can't match."
150s, dare I say, close to 160 against Jake Paul. And dare I say it, I think that's the right thing for him to do. Why? I've been saying this. Number one, fighters need to start fighting closer to their walk-around weight. They're just healthier that way. They're just better and healthier that way. I mean, I know it's probably surprising them too. Like, that was the best I've seen Terrence Bud Crawford. Lamont Roach, he's fighting Pitbull at 140, coming from 130 and a pit stop at 135. You have Shakur Stevenson talking about fighting Teofimo Lopez. They're very close to making that fight at 140. And I think all of them would look their best there, especially Roach, where he ain't knocking nobody out down there at 130. But I bet you he'll be swatting far more at 140. Gervonta Tank Davis, I think, just like the others, fighting closer to your walk-around weight is just going to be one of the better performances for Gervonta Tank Davis. He's going to learn a lot about his body. He's going to learn a lot about himself and where he should campaign moving forward. Maybe even meeting Roach in that rematch at 140 himself. Also, another reason why I think it behooves him to come in knocking at 160 pounds is because of Jake Paul. It's not like Tank is going to dodge every punch Jake Paul throws, all right? Some of those going to land, and more than likely it's going to land on his guard. Tank is going to have his guard up. We need for him to be solid enough, his foundation and his base solid enough, so when Jake Paul hits him with those shots, he doesn't go flying around the ring.
Tank has reportedly been sparring with opponents significantly bigger than him to prepare for the upcoming Jake Paul showdown. But for Gervonta Davis, this is nothing new. Throughout his career, he's consistently challenged himself by facing heavier fighters in the gym, a strategy that's helped him develop elite timing, precision, and adaptability. With his explosive power, sharp reflexes, and high fight IQ, Tank has never struggled to handle larger opposition. Instead, he's used those experiences to become even more dangerous, proving that skill, speed, and strategy can overcome size every time. In the latest training footage, Gervonta Tank Davis looks sharper, leaner, and more locked in than ever before. Every punch he throws blends raw power with surgical precision, the kind that only comes from years of relentless discipline. His footwork is light but purposeful, each movement deliberate, carrying the confidence of a fighter in complete control. Observers have noted the intensity in his eyes, the smooth coordination between speed and power, and the calculated rhythm behind every strike on the heavy bag. The clips make one thing clear. Tank isn't just training to win, he's preparing to dominate. Experts across the boxing world agree that Davis appears to be in his best shape in years, describing his focus and conditioning as that of a man ready for war. With his explosive power, elite timing, and unrivaled ring control, Gervonta Davis looks every bit the unstoppable force heading into this showdown. One of the biggest debates surrounding this matchup is the weight difference. While some fans believe Jake Paul's natural size could give him an advantage, others insist that Gervonta "Tank" Davis's skill set completely neutralizes any physical gap. Critics question whether the size disparity might cause problems for Tank, but those familiar with his career know he's no stranger to facing and dominating bigger men in sparring and competition. Supporters remind everyone that boxing isn't a game of size. It's a game of timing, precision, and discipline. Tank's sharp counterpunching, slick defense, and ability to read opponents make him one of the most difficult fighters to solve, regardless of weight. His camp believes he'll use Jake's size against him, turning aggression into opportunity. For Davis, this fight isn't about proving who's stronger. It's about proving who's smarter.
It is happening. WBA lightweight champion Gervonta Davis, who's unbeaten in 31 professional contests, takes on the self-proclaimed problem child, Jake Paul, one of the most influential and marketable global personalities. Paul and Davis square off in Miami after doubts around the fight being sanctioned in Georgia triggered a change in venue. Neither fighter can weigh more than 195 pounds. The weight is perhaps the most surprising factor. Paul has boxed most of his career around 200 pounds, the cruiserweight limit, but did tip the scales at 227 pounds when he faced off against Iron Mike Tyson last year. Davis, much smaller in stature, competes at the 135 pound mark and has also won world honours at super featherweight.
And despite some discussions about possibly dropping down to 10 ounces, the pair seem set to wear 12-ounce gloves.
And in terms of distance, despite the exhibition tag, the fight will play out over 10 3-minute rounds with 3 scoring judges at ringside, but the result will not be officially recorded on their professional records.
Lamont Roach has recently made headlines with his sharp comments about Gervonta "Tank" Davis, hinting at unresolved issues between the two. His tone, filled with clear frustration, has caught the attention of analysts, who suggest that Roach's remarks may stem more from envy than genuine conflict. Once respectful peers, their relationship now seems strained as Tank's stardom and financial success continue to grow. Observers note that Roach appears frustrated watching Davis dominate both the sport and the spotlight, while others, including himself, remain on the sidelines. Boxing insiders point out that when fame and fortune become part of the equation, rivalries often turn personal. Meanwhile, Tank refuses to engage in the noise. He remains focused, disciplined, and silent, allowing his work in the gym, not words, to speak for him.
Off rip, the question is direct. Reportedly, Tank's gonna make $40 million around there to fight Jake Paul. Would you do the same thing if you were in this situation? And he's like, actually, this is what I explained before. You're beating around the bush. It's really a yes or no. I would do it. I would take the 40 mil, or I wouldn't take the 40 mil. But let's listen to this long, drawn-out explanation.
There's about $40 million that he's going to get paid. If you were in his shoes, wouldn't you do the same thing?
See, now, this is something that I explain and express, and I hope everybody gets. That opportunity is an opportunity that you probably cannot pass up. But it's about how you handle it. It's about how you go about it. A lot of people don't know that he actually exercised his rights to the rematch, so that contractually binds us to a fight. You cannot breach that. unless you do what you have to do to handle the business to be like, okay, well, we mutually agree to let you move on and or swindle around and fight Jake Paul for this money. If you think I'm going to sit back by the wayside and sit there and be like, well, even though I'm contracted to fight this guy for this amount of money on this certain day, I'm just going to sit here and be cool with, oh, he might not ever fight me, and he's going to go fight and get paid and get this money, and I'm not supposed to get anything?
Boxing experts continue to emphasize that Gervonta "Tank" Davis doesn't receive the full credit he deserves for his impact on the sport. They point out that many of his opponents gain massive recognition only after facing him, a clear sign of Tank's star power and influence. Fighters who were once relatively unknown often become household names simply because they shared the ring with him. This recurring pattern proves that Davis isn't just another champion, he's a career-defining opponent whose presence alone can change another fighter's trajectory. While some critics argue that Tank hasn't faced the toughest lineup, analysts counter that his ability to draw global attention and elevate others speaks to his unique status in boxing. For many, Davis represents more than power and knockouts. He's the engine driving modern boxing spotlight, turning every bout he's in into a worldwide event.
Ongoing discussion in the boxing world about Gervonta Davis and Gervonta Davis, his resume, who he's gonna fight, the competitors that he's gonna fight. And every once in a while, something happens that proves that Gervonta Davis is the face of that. If he's not the face of boxing because people just don't want him to be that, man, he is real close to it, because other than Canelo Alvarez, and even consider Canelo Alvarez included, nobody in boxing has divisions circulating around him like Gervonta Davis does. And that was proved during this Lamont Roach versus Pitbull Cruz announcement for their pay-per-view. Just think about this. Gervonta Davis, they always say that Gervonta Davis has a poor resume. But yet, Gervonta Davis, guys that fight Gervonta Davis, lose to Gervonta Davis, or get a draw to Gervonta Davis, can fight one another and make an anticipated pay-per-view between the two of them. Because that fight with Pitbull Cruz is a very, very popular fighter with Mexican fight fans. Lamont Roach got a lot of name exposure with black fight fans and Mexican fight fans and white fight fans, all with his draw that he got against Gervonta Davis. Now they believe that this is going to be able to be a profitable endeavor for a pay-per-view. Now, let me also tell you that Rolly Romero, who was somebody else that Gervonta Davis fought in the past, will be on a pay-per-view that's going to be successful, most likely, when he defends his WBC.
Stephen Fulton came forward to defend Gervonta "Tank" Davis against ongoing claims that he's only chasing money. Fulton made it clear that every fighter has the right to prioritize financial security after years of putting their body and health on the line. He noted that Davis has already proven his greatness, winning world titles, delivering unforgettable performances, and solidifying his legacy in the sport. Fulton explained that at this stage of Tank's career, choosing big-money, high-profile fights isn't greed, it's strategy. He emphasized that boxers have limited windows to earn, and ensuring long-term stability is just as important as building a legacy. His comments reminded fans that Davis has earned the freedom to make decisions that serve both his career and his life beyond boxing. Hearing that support from a respected fighter like Fulton helped shift the narrative, showing that Tank's moves are rooted in experience and self-preservation, not selfishness.
Anybody in that position would have taken that fight, especially the payout. It's like, that's a no-brainer, but I understand. I still feel for Lamont. That's my boy. Like, he still want his rematch. But then when you be realistic about the money situation, you're changing your whole family life. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's people hate on it because they're not in that position. I'm not saying Lamont. I'm speaking like other boxers. You're like, oh, he this for that. He's a side quest. It's a little side quest. Because what happened when Floyd and all these guys went on WWE, but then they get right back to what they doing? You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's another little side quest. I'm all for people just getting their money. So get the best, make the most that you can out of this entertainment world. Because, I mean, I don't know. I would have done it as far as the money aspect, because none of us would deny that money. They talking like they would. None of them would deny that money.
Luke Thomas offered a different perspective on the upcoming fight. While he praised Gervonta Davis's unmatched knockout power and refined technical skill, he couldn't help but notice a shift in Tank's demeanor. During interviews and press events, Davis appeared unusually calm, almost detached, compared to his typical fiery pre-fight attitude. According to Thomas, this composure suggested that Tank might not view Jake Paul as a true challenge, but rather as a lucrative business move. He speculated that the spectacle and massive attention surrounding Jake Paul might be what caught Davis's interest more than the actual sporting competition. Still, Thomas was quick to point out that even a less emotionally charged Davis remains a serious threat. His natural instincts, experience, and power make him dangerous in any ring, regardless of motivation. Thomas concluded that if Tank shows up focused even halfway, his skill level alone could be enough to dominate.
So in that sense, it's a little bit different. It's not different in the sense of a boxer in his prime or relative prime straying off the path, but this one is not. It's not like someone else, in a similar weight. It's like completely the opposite, and so that makes it, I think, look and feel weird. And then on top of it, obviously, Gervonta's got other business to handle. He looked to me, Gervonta, absolutely, completely disinterested. Even at the beginning of this year, and dude, even at the pre-fight Lamont Roach stuff, Tank was talking about how much time he has left in boxing, which he wasn't much. The Lamont Roach fight, it blew up in his face, but Lamont Roach was cherry-picked. I think Tank thought, I'll just fight another guy from, the mid-Atlantic area who's, remember Roach came up from 30 to 35 to fight him, and Tank thought he was just going to cruise, and then it blew up in his face, and, you're left with that. So, you're making a point about, he's got this obligation. That's true, but he was already fucking around. He was already taking opponents that, again, I think Roach showed everyone that was a mistake, but put yourself in Tank's mind. Tank was taking a fight against someone he was clearly, in his mind anyway, better than, and was just going to cruise. So he was already in that state. Then you marry that with statements like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm worried about going to therapy because it'll take away my competitive edge. And
while many people view this matchup as just another high-paying spectacle, others see it as a deeply personal mission for Gervonta Davis. He isn't fighting simply for headlines or financial gain. He's fighting to make a point. Davis wants to prove that real, disciplined athletes can still dominate in a world increasingly ruled by social media fame and viral attention. For Tank, this isn't just about adding another win to his record. It's about protecting the integrity of boxing. He knows millions will be watching, and from devoted boxing fans to Jake Paul's massive online following. And that gives him the chance to remind everyone what true competition looks like. If Davis delivers a decisive victory, it would send a clear message across the combat sports world. Authentic skill, dedication, and heart will always outweigh hype and celebrity status.
Davis in this particular in the press conference, and you can tell, you can just look at him and tell, no, this dude he's gonna get this money for sure, because there's so much money out there to be had. But Jake Paul better be not playing around, man. Not get cute, not play any games, don't hit him in the back of the head, don't rabbit punch him, don't do any of that stuff, man, because Mike Tyson, first of all, a lot of people think Mike Tyson was pulling punches on Jake Paul, and a lot of people think that Anderson Silva was pulling punches on him too. You're not going to have a little Gervonta out there pulling punches on you, man, if you're out there playing games. So, I don't like the fight at all. However, as far as it being an entertaining situation, I almost guarantee you that fight itself is going to be entertaining. That it's going to be something that you look at and you're going to say, man, everybody's going to watch it. Everybody's going to want to know what happens in it. But at the same time, it's kind of like what people think, when you see a car crash, like you're driving down the road and all of a sudden the traffic gets heavy and you're like, man, I'm going to be in traffic for a long time. And then you drive forward a little bit and then you see, oh man, this is some accident on the other side of the road, and everybody just slowing down to watch. That's the type of entertainment that you can expect from this fight between Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul. There's going to be a lot of people watching it, but I gotta say, man, you really can't blame the guy on what he's doing. And there's a lot of criticism flying on Gervonta Davis. It's not Gervonta Davis's fault that boxing took this turn.
Charleston White didn't mince words when sharing his opinion about Jake Paul. According to him, Jake's boxing career is built more on entertainment value than genuine athletic achievement. White argued that once Jake steps into the ring with Gervonta "Tank" Davis, the reality of the gap between a seasoned world champion and a social media-driven fighter will become impossible to ignore. He pointed out that Tank's reflexes, timing, and experience against elite-level opponents will clearly expose Jake's limitations as a boxer. Charleston emphasized that while fame can create opportunities, it can never substitute for years of real combat experience and discipline. In his words, true boxing greatness isn't built on clout or followers. It's forged through tough fights, hard lessons, and relentless dedication. White's comments echo what many purists already believe. When Davis and Paul meet, the difference between skill and spectacle will finally be exposed.
Davis and Jake Paul fight. And what he said was, look, man, do not pick against Jake Paul because he didn't believe that any of the fights that Jake Paul have had to date really have been a real thing. And that the boxing world is looking for that great WHITE hype. And Jake Paul is going to be that guy, even though he really can't do it in a real boxing match. So he was basically reflecting and saying that he, you know, the saying where they say, believe a half of what you hear, half of what you see, and none of what you hear. He adjusted it to say, don't believe anything you hear and anything you say, anything that you hear and anything that you see. And honestly, man, when it comes to internet boxing, YouTube boxing, and what people say is going on in the media, without a doubt, I think Charleston White is 100% right about that. Don't believe anything you hear. Don't believe anything you see. Wait to see how things play out, and ultimately everything will come out in the wash. Well, going into this fight with Gervonta Davis, I had my concerns about the fight because of the same type of reasoning that Charleston White used, except for mine is slightly different. I don't think that either one of these guys are going to try to do too much damage to each other. Number one, because if it's scripted, which more than likely to an extent it will be, Gervonta Davis is not going to put himself in a situation where Jake Paul is going to actually be able to hurt him.
That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more updates, and until next time, keep your guard up and your focus sharp.